Hi everyone, I'm Marilyn from trembelingart. Today we're going to talk about muddy colors. Like, have you ever mixed what you hoped would be a beautiful, vibrant color and ended up with just mud, similar to what I have here? So we have a beautiful bright orange and a duller, more muddy orange, which there are uses for that too, I'm sure, and a bright green and a more dull green. And I don't know if you can see this on camera. This is a bright purple, and this is more dull grayed out purple. So today we're going to talk about why you get the bright colors or the muddy colors, and how to avoid getting the dull down colors. When we say a color looks muddy, we're usually talking about something that's lost its clarity or its vibrancy. So instead of a bright green or a bright purple, you get this brownish grayish color. So one of the reasons for this is the pigments that you actually mix together. So we know that yellow and blue make green. So you would expect it to come out with this beautiful bright green. But sometimes when you mix a yellow and a blue, you get this dull color. Why is that? So I'll show you by mixing the colors here. So this is phthalo green. I want a phthalo blue. Too many colors here. So we're going to start with a phthalo blue. Too much paint. And we're going to mix it with my Hansa yellow light. You can also use cadmium yellow light if you don't have the Hansa, or lemon yellow if you have that. So if we mix these together, we should get a nice vibrant green. And always clean off your palette knife or your brush or whatever you're using before you dip it into the next color to avoid contamination. So as you can see, this is already bright, and you can add more yellow or more blue depending on the shade that you want. This is a lovely green color. So we'll just use the brush and I'll show you. See how beautifully bright and vibrant that color is. Now, if you were to use, if you were to use different blue or different blue and yellow, you would get a different color. So we'll try with ultramarine blue. Now, ultramarine blue has a red bias, which means it leans slightly towards a red shade. And if we mix it with some cadmium yellow deep, ultramarine is a very intense color too. Oop, too much yellow. So we're going to take a little bit of our blue, wipe off our palette knife, start off. When you're mixing colors, don't start off with a big blob, because you could waste paint, because you may end up with the color that you didn't want. So we're going to add a little bit more yellow. So now we're getting a green, but it's not the bright green that we got over there. This green is more of maybe an olive green, a dark olive green. And I'm sure there are uses for that too, but it may not be what you want. So, oh, I have too much water on my brush. So wipe some of that off. I'll do it there. You see the difference? Why is that? They're both blues and both yellows. So why do I get the dull down muddy color? The reason for that is because, like I said at the beginning, ultramarine is a mix of well, it's not a mix. It leans more toward the red side. So what you have here is a blue and a red and a yellow. So all three primary colors. Whenever you have three primary colors, you mix them together, you're going to get brown or a dull down color. And this is why, because these are pure pigments, you're getting the beautiful green. But these are blue and red and yellow, so you're getting all three in various amounts. Another reason you're going to get muddy colors is because when you mix complementary colors together, you get a dull down color. Now, a complementary color is a color that's opposite on the color wheel. So the opposite of blue is orange. So if I were to mix blue and orange together, I would get a gray, because what you're getting is your blue and your orange is a mix of yellow and red. So you have, again, three primary colors mixed together. Now, that being said, there is value in using complementary colors, because if I had a blue and I wanted to tone it down a little bit, maybe it's too bright, I would add a tiny, tiny touch of orange. If I add too much orange, I'm going to get a gray. So let's demonstrate that, and I'll show you. So let's take our cobalt blue. This is a nice, lovely blue color. And we're going to add a little bit of orange. And we're going to mix. So if I take some of my blue, again, clean my palette knife and my fingers, and I'm gonna, when you shake, you have trouble getting a tiny little bit of anything, and I have terrible tremors. So we're going to start off with just a touch, just a little tiny bit of orange, and we're going to mix it in with our big amount of blue. So that's not dull down enough to my liking, so I'm going to add just a tiny touch more. So what I'm going to do over here is I'm going to add the pure cobalt. And I'll show you what it looks like in various stages of the dulling down. See, this is slightly duller. I don't know if you can really see that on camera. So we'll continue adding a little bit of orange until I get it desaturated enough or grayed down enough for my liking. And these colors are great, as I said, to tone down a really bright color if you didn't want the really bright color. They're also good to use for shading and shadows. See, with each bit of orange that I add, I get a slightly duller color. Now, whoops, well, that wasn't good. I guess I need a new brush. So what happens when you leave them sitting in water, as I must have done with this one, the glue actually, I guess it disintegrates over time, waters down maybe, and the brush handle comes away from the ferrule. So that's why you should never leave your brushes sitting in water and never let them dry like this, where the water can come down. So now we have a much more desaturated orange. But what happens if I add too much orange? Let's wipe off my palette knife. Now we're going to add over here, we'll add a big blob of orange, like half and half maybe. Oh, if I can get it on the palette knife, there we go. And now you can see what's happening. It's becoming less blue and more gray, more desaturated, ugly kind of color. So we'll too much water again. You can see how grayed down that is. Now, to continue on with this idea, I'll show you another complementary color. So if we have green, the complement is red. So that means you can mix a little bit of green or a little bit of red into your green to dull it down, right? So this is phthalo green. And we're going to mix a little bit of, let's see, ink. Maybe we'll try alizarin crimson. It's a deep red. And you mix them together. So if I want to dull down or desaturate my green a little, I'll add a tiny touch of red. And that may be too much because alizarin is a very intense color. Well, maybe not. Maybe a little bit more. Now see how I contaminated my red paint by not wiping this off? That is sometimes the reason why you get muddy colors. Because you contaminate one color with the other. Let's see. So not only does alizarin dull this down, but it makes it darker. And in small amounts, that may be what you want. So this is the original green. Clean off my brush. And this is when mixed with the alizarin. I'd say it's a little duller. But what happens if I mix the green and the red in equal amounts, or pretty much equal amounts? You end up with, in this case, because the colors are so intense, you end up with a very dark, almost black color, right? Again, too much water on my brush. I seem to be having trouble with the water today. See, it's an almost black color, which will work in some instances, but it may not be what you want for, like, say, bright foliage in the sun or something. And this is one of the reasons why you're going to get muddy colors. Another reason for muddy colors is this water. You see how dark and dirty that water is. So if you're going to mix colors, like say light colors, you're mixing something with a white, and you dipped your brush into the dark color paint or dark color water and you paint it. I can see, I don't know if you can see it on there, but you probably can. It's dark and dirty, and like there's a greenish tinge from where I use the green. So if you're going to mix light colors, or any color for that matter, you should always have some clean water available. And usually, the reason I use this type of bin is because I can have clean water on one side and dirty on the other. But with my shaking and splashing, I've contaminated this one. Not as badly as that one, but it's much cleaner, as you can see. The other thing you can do is use 2 jars of water, one for dirty water, one for clean water. Most watercolor artists will do that, and it works the same for acrylics as well. So keep your brushes clean, keep your palette knife clean, and keep your water clean to get good, clear, clean mixes. The other thing, if you're going to do like wet on wet layering, say you have a yellow. So we'll start with cadmium yellow medium. I'm going to do it right on here. And I'm going to brush that out so that it's a big swatch. Now, it's wet, so I want to mix in, say, a blue to get a green, right? So these might be wet enough. So you can do that. That might have been a little too intense. So you can mix the wet on wet right on your palette to get your, or right on your painting if you want, to get the green you want. But sometimes that doesn't work if you have the wrong colors. So let's say we have phthalo blue, and a little bit of color. And you want to make a purple. I don't know, there's probably not enough there. The other thing is too, if you're going to mix wet on wet, make sure you have enough color on there so that it's not absorbing into your canvas or your paper or whatever you're using. A nice thick blue. So if I use the wrong red to make a purple, so this one is alizarin. I probably used too much there, so I'm just going to scoop some of that off. So now I'm mixing my phthalo in with my alizarin. What I'm getting there is a black. Not what I wanted. So if I was going to mix a purple right on my my painting, I would start with probably an ultramarine, which leans kind of to has a red bias. So I know that adding my red paint, and in most cases I use quinacridone magenta because it gives you the best purple. So I would use the, I don't know if I got space there now, maybe down here. I would use a little ultramarine and spread that out. I hate wasting paint. This is why I generally use the Liquitex Basics for demonstration, because they're a little cheaper. They're student grade paint, but they're still light, fast, and really pigmented, well pigmented. It's a great paint to start with for beginners. So I'm going to use a little of my magenta, and I'm going to put it there because I don't want to use too much. So I take my magenta, brush it over my ultramarine, add a little more until I get what I want. That's a beautiful color. I don't know if you can see that well on the camera. I'll try and zoom in. but you end up with a much brighter purple than this one up here was. The other thing you can do to avoid muddy colors is if you want to, like say in this case up here where I put the blue over the yellow, you can wait till the yellow dries and then do a glaze. So a watered down version of your blue paint over the yellow to give your yellow a green tinge. If you make a mistake and your paint is still wet, you can usually wipe it off with a damp paper towel or a damp cloth, or scrape it off with your palette knife. The other thing is you can wait till it dries completely and then paint over it. And sometimes you can work around it. If you make a mistake and you mix a muddy color and you put it on your painting, sometimes it might be in an area where you need shading or shadow, and you can work with that. So the nice thing about acrylics is you make a mistake, you can cover it up pretty easily. Whereas with water paint, the paint tends to lift, or with oil paint, you might have to wait days for it to dry before you can go back in and fix it. So the next time your colors turn muddy, just take a step back, think about the colors that you used. I have a blog post on complementary colors and the color wheel, and several blog posts actually that deal with all this if you'd rather read about it, and there are some charts there that you can download and keep for future reference. Keep your palette clean, keep your colors clean, keep your tools clean. And if you like this video, if you found it helpful, give it a thumbs up and subscribe for more beginning painter tips. And let me know in the comments if you've had muddy colors and what you did to fix them yourself. Thanks for watching, and happy painting.